I'm Miss Kaleo.
I'm Miss Button.
I'm Miss Valentini.
And our strategy is RAFT, directed writing. Before you watch our presentation, we want you to pause the PowerPoint and brainstorm some writing strategies that you have been taught or have used in the past, and kind of just explain why they've been helpful in developing your writing skills. Welcome back. The 4 questions that you should be able to answer after our presentation are: what are the 4 key elements of RAFT? What role does the teacher play in RAFT directed writing? When should the RAFT strategy be used? And how can the RAFT strategy be used across various topics? And give examples of how it can be used. Okay, what is RAFT? RAFT consists of 4 specific words that correlate with each letter in RAFT. So R stands for role, and that just means who are you. The A stands for audience, and that's who are you writing to. The F stands for form, and that is kind of a genre or like exactly what you will be writing. And then the topic is the goal or the topic of the writing strategy. And an example of this would be, in this assignment, I am writing to a family member, and I am taking the role of a soldier overseas, like in Iraq or wherever, and the form of my writing would be a letter, and the topic or the goal of my letter would be to write about how much maybe I miss my family members and talk about life in Iraq. So that's just one example of the way to use RAFT. This is also another example of ways teachers may give the RAFT strategy to their students. And as you can see, it says the role of the writer, the audience, the format, and the topic. And once the children have each aspect of RAFT, they can write a couple sentences about their topic below that.
Okay, so why use RAFT in your classroom? RAFT encourages students to, teachers when they're using RAFT in their classroom, encourage students to be more creative in their writing and to look at things in different perspective. And it helps students understand their role as a writer and why they're writing it and who they're writing it for. And it helps them relate to their audience and put their audience in their writing process and their thinking process. And it gives students many topics to write about because it really can be used anywhere and in any subject. And then some other writing concept is it helps them learn like main ideas and organization. And in the beginning grades, it's not as a key element, but once they get in the higher grades, it'll help them understand that better. And then how to use RAFT. First, you want to start with a really simple example and describe each thing. Describe the role, describe the audience, the format, and topic. And then you want to model it. You want to model how you expect your students to answer the prompt questions. And then make sure when you were modeling, you explain the key elements into your RAFT writing. And then for younger students, you want to start with a simpler example. And then as they progress, start with harder examples. And then once you model how you expect them to respond, and then you give them practice to responding to the prompts, and you can do it individual or do small groups. But make sure when you start out, you start with the same prompt for everyone so they can hear different perspectives and views on that topic. And then as they go into it, you can do different prompts for different groups, and then they can hear different answers for the different prompts. And then one confusion that can come from using a RAFT is children could have confused the role and the topic or the purpose. And the role is how you think of it to your students if they get confused, is the role is who you are as the writer, and your topic is why you are writing it. So they kind of correlate because as a person, you're a person, the reason why you write it would relate to that, but they're not the same thing. So just make sure to explain that the topic is the reason for writing it, and the role is who you are as the writer. Today we're going to talk a little more about our RAFT writing strategy. And our example that I'm going to give you today is you are an author and you are trying to promote your book. So to start off, we'll explain what the RAFT is. So what would our role be in this topic?
The author.
Right. Anna, do you know what our audience would be?
The people you want to buy your book.
We'll do buyers.
Okay.
Good. And then form.
The form would be an advertisement or some way to promote the book.
Good. We'll do ad. And then what would our topic be?
The topic would be why they should buy your book.
Good. a different example. And is there anyone before we brainstorm, anyone who would volunteer to write on the board? They would think, or do you want to hear the example first? Okay, so I want you to think as a parent, and you are writing to the school board because you want to keep music programs in your classroom. So what would you go ahead and write it, and then you can explain to the class what your RAFT was. Okay, so is it clear what the role is in this?
Yes. Because I said I am a concerned parent writing to ask you to reconsider cutting music education. So I'm a parent, and I said, dear School Board of Education, so that's the audience. And it's written in the form of a letter, and I gave reasons and why I was writing for the topic.
Good. Very good. Okay, now I want the whole class to consider, and after I give you this example, to write down a simple example like Jessa did for us. And this example is, I want you to take this one, but put it in a different perspective. So instead of being a concerned parent, pick somebody else that would be involved in this scenario and change it around and write a simple example. So change all of it around and see, like someone else you could write to in a different way you could write it. So go ahead and write that down for me, and then you can turn it at the end of the class.
Okay, and before we continue, we want you to pause the video and go on to D2L, where we have a worksheet for guided practice, and then there's also a format of a RAFT writing sheet for you guys to fill out to try yourselves. Okay, so the article that I did was called Building Assets in the Classroom Through Creative Response. And RAFT was one of the strategies that they introduced, but they also introduced two other ones. First, they started by talking about how the National Center for Education says there has been little to no improvement in students' ability to read and respond to information at higher levels since 1971. And so that's one of the issues that they were addressing. It also introduces the importance of activating and using prior knowledge to construct meaning for creative response, and how creative response connects imagination to newly learned information. So the article focuses on the collaboration of the three strategies that they introduced. One of them is the inquest procedure, which is basically role-playing between either different groups of students or students and the teachers. The other one is a simulated journal where students keep track of information by writing journals to themselves. Maybe when you're like reading a book or addressing a topic such as in social studies. And then the other one was RAFT, which is a system to help students understand their role as a writer and to introduce different perspectives. And then it just talks about this 6-step process, which is to explain, as a teacher, to explain what RAFT is, display an example, demonstrate and model, put the students into small groups and have them choose a topic and complete their own RAFT. And then as a teacher, you would circulate among the students and help them with any questions that they have. Have the groups share their example, and then have students complete it on their own.
Okay, then my article's title was Becoming Environmentally Literate Citizens. Basically, my article was about a 11th grade classroom where RAFT was used in a class of 11th grade vocation track environmental science students. So the classroom teacher saw RAFT's potential in helping shape the students as environmentally literate to meet the standards of the North American Association of Environmental Education, or the NAAEE. So the teacher believed that RAFT helped the students meet these standards it helped students make connections between prior and new knowledge and among interconnected concepts, and it also provided a context for thinking deeply about a specific topic. RAFT also encouraged the students to think outside the classroom, and it also provided them with choices about their writing assignments. And the third thing that RAFT helped do was it was very flexible, so both the teachers and the students could develop a number of writing possibilities adjusted for different skill level and rigor.
And the article I found was called Using RAFT to Enhance Students' Reading Comprehension. And what this article did was paired RAFT writing with doing projects. And so you would use the same method, but you would put it, instead of into writing, you would put it into creating a project. And the main things it talked about was that projects give students a way to process information in a different way and it makes you think differently about things than a simple question and answer kind of assignment. And the projects call for in-depth comprehension, and it can be adjusted to all students and on all levels and all different grades and really any different topic. And one of the things that they said was really important was to share their projects, so don't just complete them and grade them and then bring them home, but share them with the entire class, have each kid show their project and how they use RAFT writing to create their project, and to make sure that everyone gets to share their project and their ideas and their process.
So a competing strategy that we found was called think sheets. Basically, they allow students to ask questions throughout the process of writing. It helps them organize their ideas. It introduces editing and revising, and it helps them to organize their ideas by having them utilize a checklist. And this would be the first think sheet. So this one is the plan think sheet, and it asks the students, who am I writing for, why am I writing this, what do I know, how can I group my ideas, and then this is the checklist that they give for how they would organize it. So it's comparison, contrast, explanation, problem solving, time, order, and then other. And the next one is the organization think sheet. So it takes what they talked about in the first think sheet and kind of expands it. So it's asked what is being explained, in what order do things happen, and then it lays it out for them so they're able to organize their ideas better. The third one is the edit think sheet. It has them reread their own writing, ask them what they like best about it, so it requests that they put stars by the ideas that they like and question marks by parts that they think that they need to fix. And then it just gives them a list of questions to ask themselves as they revise their own paper. And the last one is a revised think sheet that they would do with a partner or the teacher. So they would have somebody else read their writing and go through it with them and talk about what they need to fix. And then the revised part is at the bottom, and it just has them go through the steps of what they talked about with their partner and what they can fix to make their writing stronger. So compared with the RAFT strategy, the think sheet strategy focuses more on organization and editing. It provides the students with a checklist to organize their ideas and introduces partner editing. Whereas RAFT explores more of various viewpoints and genres. It encourages creative writing and helps gain experience for writing to different audiences. And how they're similar is that they establish role, audience, and purpose.
And some conditions of use regarding the think sheet strategy is that it can be used basically from elementary all the way to high school, just because it allows teachers to start simple for lower level readers and writers, and then as grades progress through high school, it can become more complex just depending on the grade and the teacher, and the teacher obviously knows the levels of their students specifically, so it can be really intertwined depending on the specific class that it's used in. And it can also cater to the needs of both visual and linguistic learners, so it can be used in a lot of different classrooms and grades.
And some modifications you can use for this method is you can have them role play what their feelings and their think sheets and have them role play that instead. And then you could also do different forms of writing, so you could have them practice different forms instead of just doing the same one over. And then before they write anything, have you talk and have a discussion about it before they start putting their pen to paper. And then you can, depend on their level, you could choose a topic for them, but if they're more advanced and you feel that they're capable of picking their own topic, then you could let them pick their own. That way they feel more strongly towards it and they have kind of an attachment to it, and they'll have more freely be able to write. And obviously the text needs to be appropriate for the age level, and it has to relate to your content area.
Oh, so with our closure, we have pictures to help you remember the RAFT. So R would be role. We have a cinnamon roll. A is the audience. F is the form, and T is the topic. And then also a mnemonic device to help you remember is roles always favors Tuesday.
And the questions that you should be able to answer after our presentation are, what are the 4 key elements of RAFT? What role does a teacher play in RAFT directed writing? When should the RAFT strategy be used? And also, how can the RAFT strategy be used across various topics, and give examples of how it can be used.